That's pretty good. Hi everyone, Grant Schwartz here with a tier list for something nobody's talking about, but everyone should be. The new ringtones and alarm sound packs straight from the Silicon Valley sentience, Big Daddy Apple. Now I say new, when really Apple dropped these ringtones along with the iOS 17 update back in September 2023. But since then I haven't really seen any mention of them anywhere, nor have they attained the pop culture status that the last sound pack received. However, that changes today, as some of these new tones by Apple in California are the best they've released yet, which is why I will be ordering them up into a tier list of my own creation. A quick disclaimer, these are my own personal opinions that I've put hours of dedicated research into listening, comparing, and reviewing. And if you disagree with any of these placements, consider an analyzer. Up first, we have Arpeggio, which is definitely on theme with the repetition of arpeggios throughout the tune. However, as the tune drags on and on, it becomes overwhelmingly annoying. The only use case I can think of for arpeggio would be a morning alarm for someone who really hates themselves, which is why it's going to start us off slightly below average at C tier. Next up is breaking, which has a much simpler melody. Unlike arpeggio, it's definitely not on theme, as there are no rules being broken. What makes breaking interesting is not the melody at all, but rather the utilization of Apple's haptic engine, which is synced perfectly to the music, and quite honestly raises the quality of not just breaking, but many of the tracks in the sound pack. Breaking is just about as passive a sound as can be created though, which is why we'll throw it in the passive C tier, right above arpeggio. Canopy is a mess from start to finish, both in the sound and haptic feedback. It makes for a decent alarm, but the engineers over at Apple could not pick a lane for this one. Its syncopation in the middle is undercut by going back to the default beginning sound at the end. It's just trying way too hard, which is why we're going to throw it in the D tier, and honestly just rename it to Trying Too Hard. Everything about Chalet speaks to me, both on a physical and philosophical level. It is relaxing, pleasant, and overall enjoyable. The haptic engine adds a whole nother layer to this one, accenting the undercutting bongos that go boop 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 with a nice little tippy tappy. It easily goes to S tier. Up next we have Chirp, which starts out super annoying with its trilly xylophone and piccolo, and just as it starts winding down to give you that sweet release you needed from the sound, it starts to bring out the whole note synths and becomes usable. We'll throw it in B tier. Daybreak is one of my personal favorites and has been my wake-up alarm since October. It's very similar to Chalet in tone and rhythm, and for me, gets thrown right into the top of A tier. Then we move on to Departure, which is the first of the sci-fi sounds, a theme that Apple heavily leans into throughout the sound pack. While it's not the best of these futuristic features, it's definitely not the worst, especially with that crescendo in the middle that really wakes the user up. We'll go B tier for this one. Dollop goes. S tier. For a song called Journey, this one doesn't really go anywhere. It's a whole lot of and nothing else. Super underwhelming. We're gonna hurl that one right into C tier. Kettle is another personal favorite of mine. It reminds me of sitting at a baseball game as a child, eating popcorn and hot dogs. It's overall pleasant, joyful, and honestly the perfect cooking timer. We're gonna have to go S tier for this one too. Now for Mercury, it goes... Mercury is where the haptic engine really starts kicking in and adds a whole new dimension to the ringtone. It feels like a ball is dropping from the top of the phone down to the bottom, where it fights gravity before rolling off. For pure catharsis alone, S tier. Milky Way is super sci-fi-y, but to its detriment. There's no structure, the chimes are randomly placed and distracting, and I can think of no situation where the sound would be optimal. It is undeniably trying too hard. On the complete other end of the spectrum, we have Quad, which is simple and satisfying, yet somehow takes more of a journey than Journey does, all while staying on theme. The haptic engine once again shines on this number, elevating Quad to a quality place, A tier. It is easy to see why Radial was made to be the default alarm sound for this new pack. The sci-fi blips into the crescendoed feedback tone into the transformative vibrations from the haptic engine turn Radial into a perfect loop. For this, we'll roll Radial right into A tier. Reflection is the white woman's ringtone. If someone actually has their ringer on, it is likely that they have this ringtone picked, and likely that you are annoyed that you have to hear it. However, in a vacuum, it's catchy enough of a tune, and pretty much as basic as it gets. We'll go B tier for basic. And then we have Scavenger, which feels like you're out on an adventure, looking for a tasty snack, or a lost relic of the jungle. It's the type of alarm that makes me want to get up from my desk and go out and explore. Maybe a bit cheesy, which actually makes it perfect to use as a lunch break alarm. And it easily goes into A tier. When listening to Seedling, the first image that comes to mind is a little plant existing in a field all by its lonesome. And then it hits you with that first chord and suddenly you're transported into a Pixar movie. It features the best use of the haptic engine, as the phone buzzes in tune with the chords and adds a whole nother dimension to the production. In fact, Seedling is so good that I tried to find out who produced the beat, and after an hour of dedicated research, I found nothing. What's up with that, Apple? Regardless, we're gonna throw Seedling right to the top of S tier. Following up Seedling is pretty hard, but Shelter does a decent job of it, going right back to the basics. Its simple vibraphone tones and echoing bells make Shelter a pretty good basic alarm for reminders. We'll slot it in B tier, right between Departure and Reflection. Up next we have Sprinkles, which from the first note I find disgusting. I think it's so bad I'm not even going to put it in this video. It's giving bile and mud, which I guess is the producer's meta commentary on what happens if you eat too many sprinkles. This one definitely leaves a bad taste in your mouth, so bad that we're actually going to be creating a new tier, naming it Ew, and we're going to place it right in there. Thankfully, Steps goes back to the simple and clean tones. What we have here is so good, it makes me wish that they actually put a few more variations on this one. Some might even say a few more steps. B tier. At first listen, Storytime was a disappointment. Like Journey, it's given a misleading name, as within this story I could find no plot, no character development, and really no narrative to speak of. It's quite boring and derivative and plain, and to the point where I actually found myself yawning. But then I realized that this is probably the point of Storytime, where it actually makes for the best sleep time alarm in the sound pack. It's meant to be boring and tiring. With the new depth and direction that I found with this realization, my opinion of the melody greatly improved, bumping it from a disappointing D tier placement all the way up to a modest B tier. In Tease, the tension is palpable. The light taps of the haptic engine paired with the xylophone gives me literal goosebumps. It's so good that I have it bookmarked to use as background waiting music in future videos. This is my favorite in the whole pack, and as such will append Seedling and place it at the front of S tier. Tilt goes Once again, the haptic engine is put on full display, as you can really feel the phone vibrating from left to right. We'll give it B tier. Unfold tells a better story than Storytime, as we go on an adventure of longing, trials, and ultimately what we came for, a good ringtone. It also reminds me heavily of the Gravity Falls theme song, gives me dope nostalgia, and acts as another perfect bedtime reminder. We'll throw that one right at the top of A tier. At last we come to Valley, which is a fitting finale with its simple chimes dipping and rising, and featuring the ever-present haptic engine that is once again the true star of the show. Going to have to end this list off by putting it in B tier. Well, that's my tier list of Apple ringtones and alarm sounds. If you disagree with any of my picks, let me know down below in the comments, or make a tier list of your own and make your own video, you couch potato poser. If you agreed with any of my takes, you are a person of great taste, and should share this video with your friends and coworkers at the bars and libraries, so that you can show off your superior intellects. I mean, you could also drop a like on the video and subscribe for future uploads, but that's a lot of effort, and your string beanie little arms probably can't do that anyways, so just go click on something else, you brain rotted iPad baby.